Hey folks, Reloading Bench back with you once again, and today's short video is going to be related to 5/7 by 28 and something that I've mocked together that I thought was a pretty interesting solution. And since we have our powder, we're going to be reloading very shortly now. And you recall I demonstrated the CTS trimmer and setting that up with the cutter, and then doing the same thing on the Frankfort Arsenal, and the differences between the two, and the ability to take a coarse and a fine adjustment for the Frankfort Arsenal that you quite honestly can't quite do with the CTS. But what I ended up doing with the CTS, and I'll probably show that to you, is I did a bunch of trial and error, and I think you saw that on the video. And I ended up taking a caliper and doing some trial and error with using, I don't know what this side of it's called, and essentially dialing it in, locking that, then adjusting the cutter, then slightly changing the adjustment on my caliper, and then again setting the cutter, and that worked out quite well. So I got into my dialed in depth, and I was debating which one I'm going to use, which one won't roll off the table, and the deciding factor came down into the brass itself. So if this was chucked into the drill, both of these, and you go to trim this, that is not a whole lot of brass to be grabbing onto to keep from turning or to not rip up your hands. It's just not a lot to grab onto. And for other brass, I've done creative things like wear gloves with little dots on them for grip, and I've got a little rubber piece of, I don't know what it was from, that I cut up and I would fold between my thumb and forefinger, and it just makes it challenging when there's not a lot of brass to grab onto. The flip side is on the CTS, now that this is dialed in more to my satisfaction, a lot more brass. So that's bottomed out, a lot more brass to grab onto. But still, you've got brass turning in your hand. It wears on your fingers, especially in the cold weather, and it's just not quite comfortable. So along the lines of what I've seen folks do with, say, the lead trimmer, the hand trimmer, and some other creative options, I decided to leverage my Frankfort Arsenal hand primer. And what I decided to do was, I have the Lee shell holder, the number 15 for 5x7, and at first I thought, oh, let me put, I'll leave the, I had this for 223, so I had the small primer arm in there. And when I put this in, and the beauty of this particular tool is you can see, I don't know if you can see that too clearly. Actually, let me go in the other direction. You can see the primer arm coming out that much more. So this is a very adjustable tool for the primer. But what I decided to do was replace the small primer arm in here with the large primer arm, because the small primer arm would allow this brass to just turn. But the large primer sits on top of the rim of the casing, bottom of the casing, as long as I don't dial this up too high. So what it's doing is, like right now, it's twisting. So I will change the dial. There, now I'm almost locked in. Now I'm locked in. So this is like a vise, and it's barely at face level to just touch the outside of the brass. So I'm not doing any damage to this brass. So I'm, in essence, just grabbing the brass and holding onto it, just like say the lead trimmer would. So now, regardless of what I want to use, I pop the piece of brass in, and I'm trying to watch the camera and look at you at the same time, or look at the brass and look at the camera at the same time. So now, to be able to let that twist and turn in the drill without doing anything to my fingers, or if I choose to use the Frankfort Arsenal, not a whole lot of clearance there, but it still clears completely. So either method will now work with the Frankfort Arsenal hand trimmer, and it's extremely comfortable in the hand. So the wear and tear on my fingers for anything I decide to trim moving forward, this will be my model, especially for 223, because 223 just has a habit in the WFT of just spinning around, and it wears on your fingers. So this is a winner with the number 15 shell holder and the large primer arm to lock onto the case and prevent it from spinning. So that is it for now, and on to the reloading.